Executives at RIAA Records, another label partnered with Uptown, didn't like Biggie's music because they felt it was too violent and street-oriented. RIAA didn't want to release the album, but Andre knew Diddy wouldn't be happy with that. Andre understood Diddy's vision and recognized that the music landscape was changing. Dr. Dre's The Chronic had just dropped, and gangster rap was taking over the country. While Andre didn't want to tell Diddy and Biggie how to make their music, he also didn't have the time to convince everyone else at the label. So Andre decided to fire Diddy from Uptown, allowing him to figure things out on his own. Getting fired from Uptown was a major blow for Diddy, and he spent several days reflecting and trying to figure out his next career move. However, just a few weeks later, Diddy landed a $10 million deal with Arista Records to start his own label, Bad Boy Records. Biggie Smalls was the first artist signed to Bad Boy, and Diddy set out to find new talent to bring to the label. The next rapper Diddy signed was Craig Mack. Craig was working as a roadie for the group EPMD through some mutual connections. He got the chance to freestyle for Diddy, and Diddy was so impressed that he made a deal with Craig right on the spot. Craig Mack's single Flava in Your Ear became the first release from Bad Boy. The song was a huge hit, peaking at number 9 on the Billboard charts. Then Biggie jumped on the remix alongside LL Cool J, Rampage, and Busta Rhymes, which helped build even more hype for Craig Mack and Bad Boy. That same year, Biggie had a major hit with Juicy, the lead single from his album. The song reached number 27 on the Billboard charts and is now regarded as one of the greatest rap songs of all time. Biggie then released Ready to Die in September 1994, which was a massive success, peaking at number 15 on the Billboard charts. People were already calling Ready to Die an instant classic, making Biggie an overnight superstar. Craig Mack also released his album Project Funk the World, which did decent numbers but didn't quite live up to the hype surrounding Ready to Die. As a result, Craig Mack's career began to decline. Diddy mentioned in interviews that they were working on Craig Mack's second album, but in 1996, Craig left Bad Boy and released his second project, Operation Get Down, under a different label in 1997. By that time, Craig had lost much of his buzz and didn't release another project for 20 years. He largely disappeared from the music scene, but in 2012, out of nowhere, Craig appeared in a YouTube video telling fans he had joined a Christian ministry. It was later revealed that Craig Mack became part of the Overcomer Ministry in South Carolina, which some people claim is a cult, led by a man named Brother Sinclair, who has been accused of crimes such as assault and sexual misconduct with a minor. Craig Mack self-released his final album, The Mack World Sessions, in 2017. However, a few months later, in March 2018, it was announced that he had passed away from heart failure and complications related to HIV/AIDS. Like many artists who signed with Bad Boy, Craig Mack's life took a tragic turn after leaving the label. Some fans even accused Diddy of sabotaging Craig Mack's career once he realized Craig didn't have the same potential as other artists on the label. Despite Craig Mack's album not selling as much as Biggie's, the success of both projects showed that Bad Boy was rising, and Diddy knew how to build a successful label. The start was rough, and no one knew what would happen after Diddy was fired from Uptown. But within a year, the label had already released several hit singles and a classic album. Over the next few years, Bad Boy became the top label for rising rap and R&B artists, with Diddy signing new talent like Faith Evans and 112. However, as Diddy's success grew, so did his ego, and more allegations of violence and abuse toward women began to surface. Diddy's former business partner Kirk Burrows alleges that he witnessed Diddy attack a woman inside the Bad Boy offices in '94. An ex-employee also told Rolling Stone that they had to intervene and pull Diddy off the victim after hearing her screams and the sound of breaking glass. A former internet arista named April Lampros claimed in a lawsuit that in the mid-90s Diddy attacked her multiple times, including once forcing her to give him oral sex in a parking garage. She also said that Diddy allegedly forced her to take ecstasy and have sex with him and his then-girlfriend, Kim Porter. At the time, Diddy was one of the most sought-after music producers globally and used his industry influence to keep the situation under wraps. Meanwhile, Bad Boy Records was about to receive a lot more attention as they became embroiled in a feud with Tupac and Death Row Records. At first, there was no beef between Biggie and Tupac. They got along well. Biggie was a huge fan of Tupac when he was just starting out, and Tupac had been playing Biggie's first single, Party Bullshit, for weeks. After hearing it, even before Ready to Die dropped, and Biggie really blew up, Diddy flew him out to LA to promote the album. Biggie bought some weed from a dealer who was familiar with Tupac and managed to set them up. When Biggie and Tupac met, they immediately hit it off and became friends. Whenever Tupac was in New York, he'd spend time with Biggie and his crew, Junior Mafia, and even brought them out on stage at a few of his shows. At one point, Biggie even considered having Tupac manage him because Diddy was still working to get Bad Boy off the ground and didn't have much money to offer. Tupac was already a major name, while Biggie was still deep in the streets and looking to make it in rap like Pac had. However, Tupac convinced Biggie that Diddy would help him become wealthy. Biggie and Pac were close back then, but everything changed after Tupac was set up and robbed at a studio in New York in 1994. At the time, Tupac was dealing with legal issues after being accused of sexually assaulting a woman named Ayanna Jackson. It was a major case, and Tupac had hefty legal bills, so he was working non-stop to cover the cost of his lawyers. The night before the final day of his trial, Tupac was working on some verses for a rapper named Ron G when he received a message from a man named Jimmy Henchman. Jimmy Henchman was a drug kingpin from Brooklyn who ran a management company called Caesar Entertainment. He also had connections to another major drug dealer, Haitian Jack, who was one of Tupac's co-defendants in the sexual assault case. Jimmy Henchman asked Tupac to come to Quad Studios in Times Square to do a feature for one of his artists. Tupac was skeptical, but since Jimmy was offering $7,000 and he needed the money, he agreed. He headed to the studio with his friend Stretch and a few others. Right as they were walking in the building, they heard someone yelling to them from a few stories up. They realized that it was Lil and some other dudes from Junior Mafia, which meant Biggie and Diddy were also in the building. But Tupac never even made it to the studio because he was stopped in the lobby by 3 armed robbers. They demanded Tupac give up his jewelry. Pac wasn't about to give it up though, so they beat him up and shot him 5 times. Tupac was rushed to the hospital and underwent emergency surgery. Despite doctors' orders, he checked himself out just a few hours later and showed up to his trial hearing bandaged up and in a wheelchair. He was found not guilty of the most serious charges, but was convicted on 2 counts of sexual abuse and sentenced to 18 months to 4 years in prison. His lawyer filed an appeal, but his bail was set at $3 million, an amount Tupac couldn't afford, so he had to stay locked up while they worked on the case. Tupac was sure that what happened at Quad Studios wasn't just a random robbery, it was a setup. He blamed Jimmy Henchman, but he also believed that Biggie and Diddy were involved since they were there that night. What really made Pac believe Biggie was involved was when he dropped the track, "Who Shot Ya?" In the lyrics, he rapped, "Separate the weak from the obsolete. Hard to creep in Brooklyn streets, it's on. Expletive, all that bickering beef. I can hear sweat trickling down your cheek. Your heartbeat sound like Sasquatch feet thundering, shaking the concrete." The song could have been aimed at anyone, but Tupac was certain it was a diss directed at him, and he believed it confirmed Biggie was the one who set him up. Despite Biggie and Diddy both denying any involvement in Tupac's shooting, Pac didn't buy it. While Tupac was serving his sentence, Suge Knight was on the lookout for new talent to sign to Death Row Records. Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg put Death Row on the map with The Chronic and Doggy Style, but none of the other artists on the label were rising to superstardom. Suge Knight knew he needed another big name, and he thought Tupac would be the perfect fit. When Tupac heard that Suge was interested in signing him, he reached out for help. Tupac still couldn't afford his bail, and his mom's house was about to go into foreclosure, so he asked his new wife, Kesha Morris, to reach out to Suge Knight about a deal. She managed to get in touch with him, and later that same day, Suge sent Tupac $15,000 to help save his mom's house. Soon after, Suge flew to Clinton Correctional Facility, where Tupac was locked up, and offered him a 3-album deal with Death Row, which would provide him the money he needed to get out of prison. We're just getting started. There's so much more to Diddy's story, and you won't believe what's coming next. The next video is on the way, packed with more epic moments, wild stories, and all the legendary moves that made him who he is today. You won't want to miss it, so stick around because the best is still ahead. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. We appreciate your support and look forward to bringing you even more exciting videos in the future. Stay tuned for our next upload while we value your support.